My name is Ilwad Elman, and I live and work in Muqdisho, Somalia, a country recently ranked as the second worst place in the world to be a woman. And this is because Somali women face several forms of gender-based violence: forced and early marriage, almost universal female genital mutilation, rape, and other forms of sexual violence. Women from the internally displaced peoples camps and the host community are systematically preyed upon. This is made worse by the vast number of small arms in civilian hands and a growing gang culture in some parts of the country. Acts of sexual violence usually go unpunished, and rapists are rarely tried or convicted. And even where justice is initiated, victims are not provided any form of protection, compensation, or recourse. Victims are treated like criminals, and those who dare seek justice are often retaliated against. In some cases, the rapists are even forced to marry their victims. My organization, Elman Peace and Human Rights Center, co-founded the first rape crisis center called Sister Somalia. It was born during the most insecure of times, where the terrorist group Al-Shabaab controlled much of the country. Rape massacres, sexual slavery, genital mutilation, female infanticide, death by stoning, dowry murders, marital enslavement, beheadings, indiscriminate killings, and human trafficking were daily occurrences, often committed publicly, always left unspoken, where fear superseded all. Mentioning the word rape or providing services to survivors was so highly stigmatized, the only way to respond to the female suffering was through an underground network of support that Sister Somalia created through word of mouth. Survivors who were once supported by our center quickly began referring other women. Women who were raped months before, but until then were too afraid to seek aid, and others who were raped hours before all began coming forward. The 2011 famine in Somalia killed an estimated 260,000 people. This led to vast displacement and colossal displacement and vast influxes of internally displaced peoples, predominantly women with children in tow. They were all headed to Muqdisho, the nation's capital, in desperate search of food and aid. And when they arrived, they encountered even more insecurities. And their belief that Muqdisho was a safe haven for refuge and aid quickly became a very short-lived fallacy. The first Sister Somalia Center we set up used to receive a consistent at least 13 survivors of rape every day. The frantic calls of desperation arrived at all hours. The amount of women and girls seeking emergency care was overwhelming. And often, our offices even doubled up as shelters at night. All the while, my team and I faced threats and worked under enormous risks. Sexual violence is extremely taboo in Somalia. You have the terrorist group Al-Shabaab, the federal government, community leaders, and the general public. These different groups rarely have common views, but it became very, very clear that rape was a topic that they all wanted swept under the carpet. But Sister Somalia would not be silenced. It did the exact opposite. It changed the global discussion on sexual violence by bringing the issue to international platforms and giving the world a never seen or heard before candid look into the extent of the female suffering in Somalia. Although addressing gender-based violence remains an uphill battle, there have been some positive indicators. Gender-based violence is now a part of everyday language. However, to many, it still only means rape. And even in that, it does not include the more inhumane or unfathomable acts. The widely practiced female genital mutilation and domestic violence are considered necessary milestones in every woman's life. Some forms of gender-based violence are covered by patchworks of national law and international instruments the Somali government is considering ratifying, but the hard fact remains that no single instrument addresses gender-based violence in an unambiguous, comprehensive, legally binding manner. This is a chasm in the judicial system. I will continue to advocate for social and legislative reform to protect Somali women and girls because statistically, 1 in 3 women will be beaten or raped in her lifetime. 1 billion women are subjected to violence globally. If one believes in international law and the sanctity of human rights, then you must believe it's time for the violent oppression of women to end and to be addressed by international law as a class of crime in its own right through a convention on violence against women. And I call on all of you to lobby for this when you go back home. Women's security is not an option, but a fundamental prerequisite to progress. Thank you.